morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
It can be a cool, clear, summer mountain morning, and you've got cattle to gather, thousands of acres of timbered high country range to cover, and in the back of your mind, there can be a little nagging concern about the horse you'll be riding today.
He steps up on this mare, and she just makes a little bit of a circle and then just stands there, and my horse, he blows up and bucks me off.
That's top hand, longtime cattleman, ranch manager, feedlot manager, working cowboy Dan Stocking. And he'll describe a morning like that when he was trying to help Miles Kingdon, who was on a bronchi colt. And we will press on with a similar theme in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight.
Saddle the horse you'll use for the day, making sure your rigging's got no extra play. He steps aboard light with him all gathered up, 'cause you know firsthand this critter can buck.
That's Gary McMahon's classic, A Cowboy in Day, and yep, you'll hear the whole thing today. Big, round, and square bales have taken a lot of labor out of our summer, but if you're not quite set up to handle those big, heavy bales, well...
The obliging neighbor loaded a 1,700-pound square bale of alfalfa in the bed of Arnie's pickup and sent him home. Arnie backed up under his new one-bale hay shed, and using 2 nylon ropes and 15 foot of log chain, he secured his load to the back left-hand corner pipe. Behind the wheel, he let the clutch out. The tires only spun.
Yeah, and guess what happened next? Baxter will have the rest of that story. And on the Rangeland News, the Trump regime has begun the process of dismantling the North American Free Trade Agreement, but not everyone in U.S. agriculture thinks that's such a good idea.
NAFTA has played a central role in boosting incomes for millions of U.S. farmers, ranchers, meat and poultry processors.
On the Irvin Saddles and Tack Horse Training File, I'll take a detailed look at preparing your horse for one of those mountain trail horse courses, and they're a lot of fun. We'll have another classic Song of the West, and we'll get started with R.J. Vandegrift and more about that little trepidation climbing on that horse you'll be riding for the rest of the day.
You ease up in the saddle. It's frosty and first light. Your pony's walking on eggshells as a chill runs down your spine. Just when you think you've stolen a ride and the hair lays down on your neck, both barrels blows as he leaves the ground. Welcome to the hurricane deck. And time stands still when you're sitting in the middle of the back of a bucking horse. Storm blows up out of thin air and it hits with a mighty force. Keep your mind in the middle, a leg on each side, and you might avoid the wreck. You've never felt your world rock till you've ridden on a hurricane deck. Some folks never get it, some can't get enough. Some of us feed on the danger and crave the adrenaline rush. So we climb down in the buck and shoot, not just to win a check. It's the thrill of the ride when they crack that gate and I'm back on the hurricane deck. And time stands still when you're sitting in the middle of the back of a bucking horse. Storm blows up out of thin air and it hits with a mighty force. Keep your mind in the middle, a leg on each side, and you might avoid the wreck. Ain't never felt your world rock till you ridden on a hurricane deck. Mind in the middle, a leg on each side, and you might avoid the wreck. never felt you were robbed till you've ridden on a hurricane deck.
And it's just like that. RJ knows he's been there. Well, sometimes when I corner a top-hand, lifelong cowboy and cattleman, they're like a calf trying to hide in the farthest corner of the corral. Dan Stocking wanted nothing to do with my microphone, but once we got rolling, he was great.
I don't know what to tell you, Hugh.
Well, just tell me your life story, starting with where you were born, how old you were when you were born.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm not...
Your days at Douglas Lake, I'm trying to think of some of the guys that you might have ridden with that we might know. Probably Puck was there.
Yeah. Wendell was there. Tom Mednosti, they called 40 Mile. Rock Creek. I can't think of his name offhand right now, so you put me under pressure here.
Lots of pressure sitting here.
Yeah. But yeah, there was lots of guys. Kenny Kingdon, Miles. Yeah, Miles Kingdon was there. A whole bunch of them guys. Orville, Terry Milligan, Jake Cooley.
Gosh, I got to ride
Holmes, all them guys. Yeah.
Oh, Scotty, yeah. I got to ride with a few of those guys only once, and it was in December, about the 3rd or 4th, and they were moving all the replacement heifers from Chaperon to English Bridge, I think, and the guy I wound up riding beside was Jake Cootley, and what an honor that was, right?
He's very soft-spoken and stuff like that, and he won't tell you a whole lot of the secrets of cowboying, but if you just kind of watch him and if you show that you're genuinely interested, he will let you in on a few of the secrets of the old trade and stuff like that. So good people, and
those guys are so special, and sit back and kind of keep your mouth closed and watch what he does and try and be in the right position.
Yeah, I had to. Stan Murphy was another one, good horseman, and I know the first year I went to Douglas Lake, and I was up at the Chaperon end there with Keith Smith. And so anyway, we come down to English Bridge, and we had to work some dry cows out of a bunch of pairs there. And so Stan said, okay, guys, just kind of go through the herd here slowly, and we'll just bring these dry cows. Well, of course, there's about 8-10 of us. Everybody goes after a dry cow, and we're all trying to head for the gate. And, of course, it's just a mix-up. Everybody's crossing over one another, trying to keep track of the cow. And so anyway, I just stopped and I looked around, and here I see Stan Murphy sitting in the back corner of the corral, kind of watching all this confusion. And I just pulled out, went back there, and then soon, everybody realized, and they just stopped, and then we started doing it right and pulling them out one at a time, and doing a good job on it, But you just, everybody just kind of gun-ho, and you just kind of, give your head a shake and look around a little bit, and you see
how are we shaping this up here?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, there's more from Dan coming up, and the always listenable Red Stegall when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Sometimes the most reluctant guests I interview have the best stories, and that's the way it was with Dan Stocking. We were actually on one of our Spirit of the West cruises, and we'd been visiting a lot, sharing cowboy stories, remembering folks we'd both ridden with, but when Dan saw the microphone, it spooked him a little bit, but not for long.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm not good on a dang microphone.
Okay, name all the outfits you worked on, or some of them.
Well, I put 11 years in for Douglas Lake, and then due to tired living in rented housing and stuff like this, wanted a place of my own, we came back to Barhead area and I went to work for a feedlot there and put 9 years in there for Schmidt. And worked feedlot, learned on until I got burnt out doing that stuff, trying to second guess some calves, and then from there, Nielsen Brothers needed a pasture rider, and so that was way easier, and so I put 10 years in at that.
And that was up at South Peace Stock Farm?
No, that was at Clyde there.
Okay. Right. How big a pasture?
Well, we'd run about 5,000 head there on various pastures in that Clyde, Thorhill, Westlock, Charvey area, that type of stuff. And from there, Nielsen Brothers said, hey, we need a new manager up there, and so now I'm South Beach Stock Farm, or whether it's cows and calves or whatever.
So how big a cowboy crew does that take?
Well, I'm going to need probably at least 4 cowboys, and then I'll have 2 guys on, like my farming crew or whatever, machinery and fencing, that type of stuff. So yeah, there'd be 6 men, and then plus myself out there and stuff. So yeah, and hopefully that'll be enough.
The cattle were scattered for miles across the plain. Odd norther was blowing and threatening rain. Out on the high mesas while searching for strays, we rode at a high lope for most of the day. And we made a big circle and brought them all down through the coulees and draws to the big roundup ground. The river was rising from 3 days of rain. We brought them through to the headquarters range. Yes, the Brazos was rising from 3 days of rain. We brought them home to the headquarters range. I was a loner, a drifting cowhand. A girl never figured in my master plan. You came along and you opened my eyes to a feeling I'd never before realized. And we made a big circle and weathered the storm. We found a shelter where we're safe and warm. We've partnered up, girl, and I like the change. Life is complete at the headquarters range. Yes, we've partnered up, girl, and I like the change. I feel at home at the headquarters range. As we ride through life, we are tempted to stray. There's someone to guide us and show us the way. His orders are simple, believe in his word. Shun all that's evil, embrace all that's good. If we've made the big circle with the herd of the dam, our souls can be cleansed by the blood of the Lamb. And if we ask forgiveness, our lives will be changed. We'll join the boss at the headquarters range. Yes, if we ask forgiveness, our lives will be changed. He'll take us home to the headquarters range.
And nothing more pure cowboy than a Red Steagall song, and that's Red, of course, and his great band, the Boys in the Bunkhouse. Now, let's get back to Dan Stocking.
Isn't that a nice feeling, though, when you're with a group of guys that are so savvy, and they've been there, and they've done that, and you got maybe a fairly challenging job to do, and you got a lot of cattle to hold in a spot with no fences, and you've got a 4 or 5 or 6 in this group that have to come out of there, and it's so nice when hardly a word is said, you don't waste any motion, it's maybe a nod, and that's about all, and it just happens. Boy, that's not a science, that's an art form.
That's right, yeah. Our biggest challenge a lot of times bringing them herds down was coming through that Spockman Indian Reserve and crossing the bridge there on the Douglas, at the end of Douglas Lake. And them cattle scared of the bridge, and of course we're in some barbed wire fences, some old thin rail snake fences and stuff. You bunch them too tight, you're busting fences and into hay meadows and stuff. And so yeah, it was quite an art. You just start feeding them down in there, and there's crews there. They just keep coming back and taking small bunches and try and keep everything lined out and without getting too wild or anything, and just keep feeding them across. And
I've heard some stories from some of those folks about some of the wrecks they've had at that bridge after 6 or 7 hours of work and get to that bridge and it's all falling apart.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've gone lots of times a mile and a half, 2 miles back up from the bridge, back up through them hay meadows and jumping irrigation ditches and stuff like that, and you try to prevent them. Of course, we send a fencing crew down there for a week fixing fence afterwards and stuff. But yeah, no, you try and prevent them things, and yeah, work things slow and
quiet and patient whenever possible, and that's usually best. Well, next, Baxter Black describes exactly what happened when a guy tried to unload a great big square bale from the back of his pickup without a loader or bale spike or anything like that. And I have a brand new Song of the West with its origins in Alberta. Then it's the Rangeland News when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at rolling round bales. If your group or association is planning a meeting and are on a thrifty budget, check out Virtual Video Baxter. That's me. I'll video a personalized welcome, then furnish several humorous stories to run between your speakers. Signbooks can be used as auction items. We've done rodeos, museums, bull sales, the Conservation Service. Use your imagination. Virtual Video Baxter. Give us a call, 800-654-2550 at baxterblack.com. Bareback bronze boys, black with dirt and glistening with sweat on the back of a flatbed trailer on a hot, humid summer afternoon used to be a common sight in rural America, but things have changed. Just like the cotton picker, the drive-through car wash, and self-serve gas pumps, the round baler has put legions of young men out of work. Well, maybe that's not quite fair. Kids are now competing for fast food jobs because the farmer and his wife can do it all with machinery. Now, I'm not bemoaning this labor-saving technology. I never liked stacking hay, and I still don't. I'm just illustrating the fallout of progress. To properly handle 1,200-pound round bales and giant square bales require the proper equipment. And because some farmers live on the ragged edge between the old days and the new ways, they are forced to improvise. In an effort to cut costs, Arnie decided to buy one big square bale from his neighbor. Saved him money into the last for several weeks, and he only had a few sheep, a couple of show steers, a horse. Arnie actually built a small open-sided shed to cover the bale. He welded the frame out of 3-inch pipe and attached several pieces of used tin for the roof. He built a little dirt berm around the base to keep out water. The 4 corner posts were cemented in the ground. The obliging neighbor loaded a 1,700-pound square bale of alfalfa in the bed of Arnie's pickup and sent him home. Arnie backed up under his new one-bale hay shed, and using 2 nylon ropes and 15-foot of log chain, he secured his load to the back left-hand corner pipe. Behind the wheel, he let the clutch out. The tires only spun. The truck never moved. So he dropped into 4-wheel drive, popped the clutch, and pulled the entire structure down on top of his pickup. Blaine, on the other hand, managed to get 2 round bales of meadow hay on the back of his 1-ton flatbed. He hauled his load home and backed down the slight incline to his barn door. Then he walked around behind, lifted the tailboard, and was immediately run over by the bale, which rolled out, knocked him down, and flattened him into the gravel. He said it actually hurt less when the second one came. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
The 25th Annual Stony Plain Cowboy Festival runs August 18th to 20th, 2017 at beautiful Heritage Park, Stony Plain. The amazing lineup of performers includes legends like Gary Felgard, Ben Crane, Doris Daly, B.J. Smith, Ed Brown, Randy Holler, Bryn Thiessen, and contemporary stars like Aaron Pritchett, Steve Newsom, and many, many more. For information on tickets, day passes, and more, just call 780-963-6092 and see StonyPlainCowboyFestival.com. We'll see you there. Well, just ahead of the Rangeland News, there seems to be some kind of a lunar influence going on here. Just got this new CD from the group Over the Moon. That's Suzanne Levesque and Craig Bignell. And by the way, you'll be able to catch them on Bandstand Sunday at George Lane Park in High River on August the 6th. Anyway, the CD is Moon Dancer, the group is Over the Moon, and the song is Alberta Moon.
The sun sets over the Rockies, stars come shining through. An old coyote calls, calling out the moon. The cattle start to settle down, making sure they have a view. The stage is set for an old Alberta moon. That's when I grab my gal and we ride off into heaven. Sometimes it feels like this whole world was made for me. While the horses play, a hoot owl says, "Hoot from a tall pine tree. You sure can't beat an old Alberta moon." Sometimes it seems so far away, just a sliver in the sky. And times it's a great red balloon, you could rope it if you tried. That's when my sweetheart's eyes start to sparkle, and I can't help but swoon. You sure can't beat an old Alberta moon. You know that I was born to be riding fences, chasing cows all around, up and down was no silver spoon. But each night when I look up, I feel all my senses. You just can't beat an old Alberta moon. Yeah, tonight when I look up, I feel all my senses. Just can't beat an old Alberta moon.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
Top of page 1, it says, as the Trump administration looks at dismantling the North American Free Trade Agreement, we have a reaction from a number of U.S. ag leaders, both in crops and the livestock industry, and here's Rod Bain.
U.S. trade representative officials are hearing what U.S. industries, consumers, and citizens feel should be the objectives when our nation renegotiates the North American Free Trade Agreement with Canada and Mexico. And day one of the three-day series of hearings in Washington, D.C., focused primarily on testimony from representatives from the ag and food sectors. Among those sharing one perspective among farm and food witnesses at the hearing was Randy Gordon of the National Feed and Grain Association.
Do no harm to U.S. agriculture, but also use this as an opportunity to modernize the accord to address the challenges of 21st century global trade.
Modernizations that could add to ag economic opportunities gained through NAFTA. As William Westman of the North American Meat Institute noted,
NAFTA has played a central role in boosting incomes for millions of U.S. farmers, ranchers, meat and poultry processors, allied manufacturers, packaging and transportation companies.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
The Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef has launched a 60-day public comment period that runs from August or until August 29th. On its sustainability indicators for the beef processing sector. When all comments are received, they'll be posted, and another 30-day round in the fall will be held to redefine the program. The Roundtable is a multi-stakeholder group that includes producers, processors, retailers, government and non-government organizations like the World Wildlife Fund, and together they're working to encourage sustainable practices from the farm and beyond the beef value chain. Well, Canada has stepped up inspections on imported meat from Brazil to temporarily check every shipment following a corruption investigation involving Brazil's inspectors, that's Brazil's health inspectors, according to the CFIA. The new protocols, which started on April the 10th, involve full inspection of all Brazilian meat imports on 5 consecutive shipments from each approved plant and for each product category. Canada is a small buyer of Brazilian beef, importing about $21 million Canadian worth of its beef and veal last year. And full inspections by Canada include analysis for pathogens in ready-to-eat meat products, chemical residue testing, and further analysis of containers used for canned meats. The U.S. last week banned imports of fresh Brazilian beef after a high percentage of shipments failed the safety tests. The group known as RCAF USA has filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court for Eastern Washington against the U.S. Department of Agriculture, alleging their regulation that allows beef and pork to be classified as domestic products even when some of them are processed in other countries. The complaint alleges that USDA regulations violate the text of the Meat Inspection Act, which requires, for instance, that more than 800 million pounds of the beef raised and butchered annually in other countries and then imported to the U.S. should include country of origin labeling, and we all know where that could go. Well, cattle are continuing to roll through the BC Livestock Producers Co-op in Kamloops, Williams Lake, and Vanderhoof. Upcoming sales include July the 20th in Williams Lake, 21st in Vanderhoof, and 24th in Kamloops. Get all the details at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, over the mountains at the Innisfail Auction Market, next horse sale is July the 29th. Tack starts selling at 9. Horses come through at noon, and of course they have regular cattle sales every Wednesday. And you can get all the information there at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And you probably know that driverless cars have been tested for quite some time now, but how about this? Pilotless planes. In a briefing for the Paris Air Show, Boeing, the world's biggest plane maker, revealed their recent research into self-flying planes. Boeing believes that the basic building blocks of the technology already exist and that pilotless planes will soon be tested against the safety standards of air travel. Airlines are on board with Boeing dabbling in this technology, as it's projected the airline industry will need to add 1.5 million pilots over the next 20 years, as well as travel demands around the world continue to rise. In addition, Boeing is developing a cross between its narrow-bodied 737 and wider 787 Dreamliner, and they should be available by about 2025. Well, his wandering cowboy and his band and his good wife will be wandering out to the 41st annual Ivan Daines Country Music Picnic August 9th to the 13th at the Daines Ranch, the Daines Ranch, Innisfail, Alberta. And the Western Spirit Band will be with me on stage on Friday. And some other great entertainers you'll see include Ryan Fritz. He's one of the fastest rising stars in the world of Western music and just won that beautiful big Wrangler Award in Oklahoma City. Fred Doberstein, the Canadian legend R. Harlan Smith, and Bobby Bear. So we'll see you there. And the next weekend, we head up to the 25th annual Stony Plain Cowboy Gathering. That's August 18th to 20th. Among the great folks you'll see there, Gary Felgard, Doris Daly, Bryn Thiessen, B.J. Smith, Ed Brown, Ben Crane, and Randy Holler, just to name a few. And the Western Spirit Band and I will be on the main stage Saturday from 11 till noon. And that takes us down to the final item. And you know, Billy and I thought we'd try something new this summer. Something that we've always wanted to do. So we decided we'd go on a road trip and not come back until we ran out of money. And you know, we made it all the way to the end of the driveway and back. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, I'll talk about getting a horse ready for those neat mountain trail horse courses, and there's more from Dan Stocking and more great music too, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. The Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File is on the way. But first, here's a guy you'll see at the 41st Annual Ivan Daines Country Music Picnic, award-winning singer, and I'll bet he rode with Dan Stocking on a few outfits, maybe even at the Alkali. Here's Ryan Fritz.
Well, a long time ago, when I left my prairie home, headed for a cowboy job at Alkali. Ah, damn it, how I love the West, love to rope and ride. I was heading for a job at Alkali. My 1972 Chevy truck was through and it died on the side of the road. So with my saddle and my dog, I thumbed down a load of logs. I was back on track again for Alkali. Now the first one I met, I think, was Joe Rosette, at a branding dragging calves to the fire. And I thought, what the heck, these guys here drag them by the neck. But that's how it was done at Alkali. There was that grave of Francesca Ciara. They say that he lays with silver spurs. And each time we rode by, looked each other in the eye and just smiled, riding that Alkali. Well, the cowboy's brought one, I hear that he's moved on. The horses I rode there have died, but my young dreams fulfilled, now stored in my mind. I'm riding that Alkali. I still see that grave of Francesca Ciara. They say that he lays with silver spurs. And each time we rode by, looked each other in the eye and just smiled, riding that Alkali, riding for Alkali. I was riding that Alkali.
Isn't that a great one? About the famous Alkali Lake Ranch, and was owned and operated for a long time by our good friends Doug and Marie Mervin, and now part of the Douglas Lake Cattle Empire. The 17th annual Spirit of the West Cruise will be something unforgettable. My wife Billy and I will be hosting a big group of ranchers, farmers, horse and cattle folks, and Spirit of the West listeners for a trip I know many of you have had on your bucket list for a long time. September 16th, 2018, we will sail out of Quebec City and cruise Canada's maritime provinces in all the glory of the fall colors, including stops in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Sydney and Halifax, Nova Scotia, St. John, New Brunswick and the Bay of Fundy, Bar Harbor, Maine, Boston, Portland, Maine, and Cape Liberty, New Jersey, with an optional stay in New York City. Now, just for the Spirit of the West group, we have a tour of a cattle operation in Nova Scotia. We'll have all our great Western music concerts and sing-alongs, and we'll be swapping lots of ranching stories. And we'll have a lot of special activities just for our group. You'll find more details on the cruise section of our website at hugh-mclennan.com and on our cruise Facebook page, and you can always call the toll-free number 1-800-530-0131. At Irvin Tack and Western Wear, you won't find this.
Hey, yo!
But you will find this.
Welcome to Irvin's. How can I help you?
You won't find this.
What size boots you wear there, boy? You got tiny feet.
But you will find this.
Absolutely, we have your size. In fact, I've got the perfect pair for you right here.
The one and only Irvin Tack and Western Wear, something for everyone. Cowboys and cowgirls to city folks too. It's Western Wear with a welcome twist. Off exit 305 on Highway 2 by Crossfield. Open 7 days a week.
Canada's largest Western store.
Well, you know, I have really enjoyed watching some of these mountain trail horse competitions and demos, and my pal Jonathan Field built a pretty good course at his James Creek Ranch, and it was fun watching the riders and horses figure out the obstacles and then trying them out. Jonathan and I actually had a bit of a race through there. But my first thought was chasing cattle through the heavy timber on steep hillsides would be more challenging than these man-made courses, but you know, folks have been pretty creative in building some of these mazes, and it is a great way to improve your horse's trust in you, the rider, and really improve your timing and savvy. Most well-broke horses will learn to navigate a lot of really challenging obstacles in a fairly short time. Actually, it can be amazing what they will do. One of the easier ones was a wooden elevated bridge about 20 feet long and no more than a foot wide and about 16 inches off the ground. So I rode Cody up to it, and immediately I could tell that she was not about to step up on that bridge. But it was easy to get off and do a little groundwork and then send, not lead her, onto and across the bridge from the ground, slowly and carefully. And moments later, I could not only ride her across it, but I could ride her to one end and then back her all the way along and off the bridge. So we built a rocking bridge in the arena here at home, and I've had some fun with Stanley and Cody using it like a teeter-totter, and now either one of them will walk to the balance point on the bridge, stand, and if I'm in the right place, I can shift my weight ahead, and the front will tip down to the ground, and then I just lean back, and my weight is enough to take the end of the bridge at the back end down to the ground. And the way to make all this work is to make the bridge a sweet spot, a place of comfort and rest for the horse. And that can take a little while, but if you keep pushing and pecking away at them, trying to get them to cross it, and they're not comfortable, that's not going to work. Now, if you're hearing the online version of this, I think I'll be able to put up some video on your screen showing Cody doing some of Jonathan's course and Stanley rocking back and forth on the teeter-totter here at home. As I said, simple exercises like this are a great way to improve your horse's trust and your skill and timing as a rider. And for Irvin Saddles and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western Wear store, that's the Horse Training File. Something else that sure helps our horses is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. They have a variety for every type of horse, from performance to seniors, and you can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. Gee, the moon seems to be coming up and shining all over my music list today. Here's another one, Dave Stamey's Cowboy Moon.
The evening shadows sway, and the night breezes seem to say, best way to end the day, riding beneath the cowboy moon. Starlight in a desert sky puts a little twinkle in your eye. Couldn't get the blues if you tried, riding beneath the cowboy moon. Give up all your worries, lose all your troubles and cares. Everything seems so much lighter in the nighttime air. Coyote and nightbird song, and your heart just wants to sing along. In this place where nothing's wrong, riding beneath the cowboy moon. Rambles through the sagebrush-scented air. Out here the moon is so much brighter with the western flare. The evening shadows sway, and the night breezes seem to say, best way to end the day is riding beneath the cowboy moon. Yodelay-dee, and yodelay-dee, yodelay-dee. Riding beneath the cowboy moon.
Yeah, pretty tasteful little yodel there, Dave Stamey. And now, getting back to Dan Stocking. And you've started a lot of colts, developed them into good ranch horses. I've always wanted to ask you this. How old are they when they really start to get good?
6, 8 years of age, and then you'd kind of start going easier on them, just keep them for the corral work and that type of stuff, if you had to do some roping or whatever. But yeah, most of your miles, circle miles, were all on, 3, 4, 5-year-olds and stuff like that. And yeah.
At branding, would you, it comes up in the spring, you might have 60 days or less on one of these colts. Would you ever use them for heeling calves?
Most times at the brandings, I'd take like a 5-year-old that had, been going pretty good the fall, like when he was 4 and stuff like that. It's something that, you had a pretty good rein on and stuff like that, and so you wouldn't get anybody in trouble in the corral, mainly. You didn't want a horse bucking across the corral and stuff. And I remember the one morning there, Orville had called us over to help brand at his place, and so Miles and I jumped horses in. Well, he took a big 3-year-old kind of thoroughbred cross mare, and I had this 5-year-old good quarter horse gelding that I'd been riding the fall before and stuff. So anyway, everybody's in a hurry to get going in the morning there, and so I knew this mare that Miles was on was pretty bronky and stuff. So I hurried up and got my 5-year-old tightened up and bridled up and stuff like this, and I just rode him around just kind of in a circle by the side of the pickup there, and I thought I better get around there and just so I can head him this mare if she starts acting up much at all. Anyway, I get around there, he steps up on this mare, and she just makes a little bit of a circle and then just stands there, and my horse, he blows up and bucks me off. Luck happened I didn't hit any rock, but...
And you were there to help him.
Yeah, I was there to help him, yeah. So, yeah, no.
When you brand, you run many mother cows at South Peace Stock Farms?
Well, this last year, we run about 600, but it's just, pretty well what you'll... can make some money on and stuff like that. Last year there was lots of these cows circulating and stuff, but we had a nice branding. We branded 275 head that one day and had a nice, all the neighbors in and a barbecue and stuff. So
doesn't that sound nice? And that is gorgeous country up there too. And next we have a classic song of the West and the story behind the song, and then a classic piece of cowboy poetry from Gary McMahon when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Time for another one of those classic Western songs, and this one comes from Tim Spencer's brother Glen. Tim, of course, was one of the 3 founders of the Sons of the Pioneers, but Tim Spencer's brother Glen has become something of a mystery over the years, although his music is still being played and recorded by a lot of modern contemporary Western artists. He was an important extension of the Sons of the Pioneers, although he was never a member of the group, but his management savvy really helped them out at many, many times. Tim and Glen wrote together and separately for the Pioneers, and from 1937 on, Glen wrote for the movies, and he also wrote the words for the theme for TV's Gunsmoke. And he was inducted into the Western Music Association Hall of Fame in 2014. Now, there was a movie with the same title as this song, but I don't think the song was in the movie. This is Bob Wagner singing all the parts and playing all the instruments on Glen Spencer's Born to the Saddle.
I was born to the saddle, I'll ride till I die, and I herd the cattle way up in the sky. When the last train is traveled, it won't matter then, I'll live in the memory of places I've been. I was born to the saddle, I'll die bunching cattle, I know. Yippee-yi, yippee-oh, yippee-oh, I'll roam on forever, my home is wherever I go. Yippee-yi, yippee-oh, yippee-oh, if the grass gets too short and the water pulls dry, I'll stay in the saddle and root hog or die. I'm heading my pony for old Arizona, goodbye. Yippee-yi, yippee-oh, now you take the city with mansions and homes all crowded together with no room to roam. I'll take the ranges, the tall prairie hay, and the mountains 110 miles away. I was born to the saddle, I'll die bunching cattle, I know. Yippee-yi, yippee-oh, yippee-oh, I'll roam on forever, my home is wherever I go. Yippee-yi, yippee-oh, yippee-oh, if the grass gets too short and the water holds dry, I'll stay in the saddle and root hog or die. I'm heading my pony for old
Now, as we roll into this week's Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, I'm reminded of the time quite a few years ago now that Dr. Dave Chalik, one of the founders of Alta Genetics, invited me to speak to the Canadian Holstein Association in Calgary, and Billy and I were just treated so well. They spoiled us. Since then, as you probably know, Dr. Chalik has been chairman of the Alberta Livestock and Meat Agency, a past board chairman and CEO of the Calgary Stampede Board, and he was inducted into the Canadian Agriculture Hall of Fame in 2011. And now, the neat thing is, I know he was a faithful listener to this show, and I hope he still is, but man, he's so busy these days, so I'm not sure. Anyway, I know that this is one of his very favorite pieces of cowboy poetry, Gary McMahon's classic, A Cowboy in Day.
Morning is just a thin line to the east. He just steps in the corral and captures a beast. Cold saddle blankets, hey, cock-a-doodle-doo, don't buck now, you booger, you'll break me in two. And your head starts working on the last pass around. Saddle horses are wrangled, draft horses cut out. You shuts the gate and you steps to the ground. It's hot black coffee you're thinking about now, and biscuits and gravy and eggs over light. The foreman's wife is a beautiful sight. Jokes and jabs and the cow boss's orders are chewing a toothpick, and you're out the door. To saddle a horse you'll use for the day, making sure your rigging's got no extra play. You steps aboard light with him all gathered up, 'cause you know firsthand this critter can buck. Ease him out at a walk and head north towards the dump. You'll be asking to trot when he loses his hump. He hits a slow lope on the Badger Highway. It's a cool morning, blue sky cowboying day. And the brooks are babbling down through the holes, and the meadowlark sings the songs in your soul, and the wildflowers blaze any color you suppose as the smell of the sagebrush and pine fill your nose. Now the horse that you're on, he's big and he's lean, quick, tough, smart, and a little bit mean. His saddle's no place for the meek or the green. He's a sure-enough rip snorting cowboying machine. And the place that you're headed is pretty intense. Continental Divide is the back fence. There's 10,000 acres of mountain and rock there, and 1,200 head to check in a doctor. And to make matters worse, or better, you think, they're all yearling heifers, unpredictable dinks. They'll run and they'll hide till hell freezes twice, then kick up their heels as you skate on the ice. But this ain't no colt, and you ain't no kid. So you jerks out your rope and you pulls down your lid and you climbs and you cruises the sagebrush and aspen till you find you a cowbrook what's droopy and raspy. And you'll tag her just before she gets to the brush and trip her and tie her in a big rush and pack her with sulfa and penicillin. She'll turn for the better, good Lord willing. Lots of foot rot and pink eye today, but that don't mean the boogers can't play. They've ducked and they've dodged till who laid a chunk. But you managed to capture a pretty good hunk. Line-backed old heifer with a sly side dart almost upset the whole apple cart, and a bald-faced old bag sure slammed on her brakes when we dived off a ledge and got in her way. It's the heat of the day now, sun's straight overhead, and you and your hoss is packing some lead. You hanker for rest and a biscuit or two, and you figures you got that much coming to you. Now your horse likes the grass that grows neath the aspen, and the shade there is welcome as peace everlasting. So you find such a place with a creek close by to soothe the bruises of a hard ride. You hobbles, unbridles him, loosens his girth, then set yourself down in the cool green earth, surrounds your grub and drinks your fill, and takes a siesta way back in the hills. Well, a catnap is all you require. Still you lay there and ponder your thoughts. The world sure has its briars. Take, for instance, this good old cow hoss. He was a wild-eyed, ring-tailed dandy. Hell, they give up on him before they give him to me, but it's the same for horses as it is for men. He just needed a job and a kick in his shin. Well, the afternoon spent with the usual flair. A close call here, a catastrophe there. But still we save more than a couple of hides. That's why we get paid for making these rides. storm blew through for about 30 minutes, you'd swear that Satan himself was in it. You're so glad your pony's seasoned plumb through. Close lightning's unloaded a few buckaroos. You're wet as a fish, but you ain't gonna melt, and the sun feels the best it ever has felt. You're all steamed up like an overdue freight, but you're dry as a duck time you get to the gate. Now, there are those that thinks the cowboy's a crude ignorant cuss. Truth is, we no savvy them, they no savvy us. But there's one chore that sticks in my mind when a cowboy's job cuts into sublime. It's when you and your horse form a leathery feather and drift 2-3 yearlings out of together and trail them up someplace they don't want to go when they're needing a vet or whatever, you know. You sit them just so when you go through a gate. And don't rile them up, for heaven's sakes. Those that have tried it say it's kind of an art to pin them in the home corral before dark. And we're trailing 2 of them home this night. We'll probably ship the one, the other'll be all right. One wrong move, now the air's turning cool, and these 2 yearling heifers make you look like a fool. Punch him into the catch with a whoop, smile. You've been walking on eggs for the last few miles, and if one would have broke, the fur would have flew. No telling when you'd got another crack at them two. Your horse rolls in the dirt while you put up your tack, then savors his grain while you scratch his back. It's an evening ritual you both enjoy. You don't covet nothing when you ride this old boy. He heads for the Timothy down by the lake, and you saunters towards the house for soup and steak, to mixing up with compadres and finish your pie, like folks do when they're satisfied. When supper is done, there's little time for play. You sleep hard all night if you work hard all day, and before you fall off your log to float in the air, you may have time for a little prayer. Lord, I thank you for this cowboying day. I had me some fun earning my pay, and I like to think you keep meat on the table for a country that needs to keep fit and able. But a cow with no horse, Lord, is boring as hell. And a horse with no cows don't ring my bells. It's a good life you gave me, these horses and cattle, and thanks again, Lord, for my day in the saddle. Amen.
Well, thank you so much for making the ride, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And thanks again to the great Spirit of the West support crew. That's Mark and Kathy McLennan from Meadow Springs Guest Ranch. And if you are looking for tractor parts, any make, any model, any year, Mark can help you. Just see his site, bctractorparts.com. And don't miss a single issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You can subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com or call 1-800-943-7336. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.